What's going on YouTube? Cloverbills here, back with another Scarlet Violet video. Today we're going to be spotlighting yet another niche Pokemon in the Regulation E format, and that is Hydreigon. And the reason why we're looking at it today is because it just won a Regulation E tournament. So I want to take a look and examine that and see, is Hydreigon in fact a player within the format here. So before we even get into Hydreigon, I do want to also note that, we were actually kind of looking at it a little bit, but just really weren't sure how to fit it in certain things, in certain scenarios on different teams, just because, we already have a Dark Dragon type, it goes by the name of Roaring Moon. Okay, and there's, of course, obvious differences between the two, which we're going to discuss in a second. But I do want to point out a little tweet from our good buddy over here, Mr. Justin Tang. He asked on October 30th, what dragon should I use next? And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll find our reply. And we replied with Hydreigon. Just because at the time we were examining it and we said, you know what, I think this thing could be actually kind of decent. Okay, now if we just compare the two, obviously there's a lot of differences. Roaring Moon much faster, much higher special defense bulk, much higher HP. So it's a little bit bulkier in terms of HP and speed. Definitely faster for sure. Now the main difference is, of course, you're a special attacker with Hydreigon as opposed to Roaring Moon, which is a physical attacker. So in that sense, you're able to avoid Intimidate cycling, right? Because you don't care about that. You're a special attacker, whereas Roaring Moon has to do a little bit more around it. Might need to switch out, has to go for Dragon Dances to offset that a little bit. But Hydreigon doesn't really care about that. And then at the same time, you also have Levitate, which is actually really, really nice against, ground coverage. Think Landorus, Stomping Tantrum potentially. So stuff like Hydreigon on the same team as, for example, like a Heatran could be quite good, just because, you can always swap it in and soak up that ground type attack. And then at the same time, Hydreigon being weak to fairy type attacks, definitely very, very weak, 4 times weakness. The Heatran is quad resistant to that, if anything, right? So Heatran takes Hydreigon's weaknesses relatively well, and then at the same time, Heatran, in addition to that ground weakness, is also a little bit weak to water type attacks, and just think about Urshifu. Hydreigon soaks up water attacks relatively well as in addition to that. Now the only thing you have to consider with both of these is that you're both weak to fighting coverage, right? So that's the main thing you have to consider if you want to pair these two, but I do think they do have a little bit of synergy. Okay, but all in all, if you just look at Hydreigon's move pool, it's actually quite extensive here. And then, if you just, Tailwind is also something that Roaring Moon gets, but you also get that here on Hydreigon. And then certain moves here, of course you're going to get the standard Draco Meteor without a doubt. Dark Pulse, of course. I feel like these are always your two moves. And then, your speed move here, where it could be Tailwind. Then if you keep going down, it gets Earth Power, right, which is actually really good, special attack coverage. So you can even just consider that. You also get access to Flash Cannon, right? And now what you can do is just go for Terra Steel and avoid the Flutter Mane Fairy attacks, or Terra Blast, Terra Fairy, and then at the same time, go for this Flash Cannon, strong move over here. That being said, there's also stuff like Flamethrower and Heat Wave, right? So if you don't have a Heatran on your team, you need fire coverage. Hydreigon can definitely give you Heat Wave as well. And again, this is the main selling point, of course, over Roaring Moon. The move pool is rather extensive. Okay, this thing even gets Hydro Pump. I didn't even know this thing got Hydro Pump. So it even gets that. Nasty Plot, that's a little bit scary, right? And then a bunch of good physical moves, might I add, right? And then from here, it just really all depends on what kind of coverage you need. This thing also gets Scale Shot, which is actually kind of funny over here, right? And then even Rock Tomb. But the one selling point as well is Snarl here, and this is kind of what I like here. You'll definitely see this more on some Assault Vest set. So if I just put Flash Cannon, Draco, Dark Force, and Snarl, I do like this Assault Vest set. Okay, in particular, just be rather bulky, and then at the same time, you can sit in front of those Psyspam teams like Indeedee Armor's teams. Just sit there and click Snarl, and you're okay, right? Just because you get to neuter their damage. If they get up to trick them, they get up to trick them. It doesn't matter. Just neuter their damage with the Snarl, and I think it's relatively nice. So, just a sample EV spread here. You can even just do modest 116, right? And just go maybe up until here. Like the 191 is pretty good. Just optimizing for the weather chip damage. Tyranitar is running around a little bit more, so I do want to optimize for that. Let's get 12 Spidef here, just for an even number for the special defense. I think, just in terms of like outspeeding, again, going at for this 138 benchmark, let's speed creep and go to 140, and then just dump the rest here to like physical defense, and like this is still like totally fine. So this is like, a little bit of a bulkier Hydreigon assault vest set, right? Which is kind of the way I like to put it. If you just partner it with stuff like Ninetales screens, for example, then the Hydreigon also gets relatively hard to break behind this. And then you slap on a standard core of like Heatran and Landorus here, right? So now all of a sudden you get Intimidate, and now you have this trio that we've talked about before in another video, right? The screen support, the Heatran supporting the Ninetales relatively well, and then Landorus here coming in with the Intimidate support, making Hydreigon's bulk even better. Look at this bulk, by the way, 92 HP, 90 defense, 90 Spidef. So like triple 90 is actually like, relatively above average. So this thing is actually quite bulky. And then from here, you can just slap on a fake out Pokemon like Iron Hands, for example. Now you have Hands Landorus, and then your last slot, it literally could be like another offensive Pokemon here. You can even just, with Heatran Landorus, I do like Ogerpon Wellspring here, just, for a little bit more support. And then now you get some water damage as well. So you can even just build a Hydreigon team like this, build it super bulky, and with a lot of tools, Intimidate, Fake Out, Redirection. I think this works out relatively well. Psyspam, you're covered here with screens and Snarl support. You're fine there. Against the hyper offensive stuff, again, you can just just stall them out with screens, and also like Landorus, Iron Hands are going to do the job for you, right? Now, again, because it's a niche Pokemon, I don't think Hydreigon comes to every single game. I do think it comes to Psyspam games, right? And I think the rest of the team can kind of cover. But, this is just the way I would do it. So, what we want to do is just take a look at, what the winning team was using. So this way we can kind of discuss it and see, what kind of team they were kind of using over there. All right, so here's the tournament. It was a Pokepal SmackDown tour, and over here, first place 5-0. So a relatively small, short tournament. By the way, here's our team. Soda Mario was using our Moltres team, so shout outs to Soda, doing once again a very, very good job. But this is it. So this looks like a hyper offensive team with Hydreigon here, and you can almost see the, again, very standard stuff here with Tornadus, Rillaboom, Urshifu, and Arcanine, right? So Rilla, Ursh, Arcanine, here's your Fire Water Grass Core. Hydreigon is a Life Orb set with Protect, so it's going to do a lot of damage. And then you have Goldengo here. So I do like this. Just think about it. Like Hydreigon, weak to Fairy, weak to Fighting. What is a Pokemon that does well against both? Goldengo, right? So you whiff the Fighting move, and then you also resist the Fairy attacks, right? And that's very, very good here. And then Hisuian-Arcanine, again, same idea. You don't want to be taking Fighting type attacks. Goldengo is your great switch in that sense. And then at the same time, water damage, Hydreigon is able to soak that up relatively well. And then if you want to click a ground type attack into this Hisuian-Arcanine, you can swap in your Hydreigon with Levitate, or even your Tornadus for that matter, and just be okay. And what's really cool here is that, again, Hydreigon, base speed 98, it's fast, but not that fast. So it does appreciate the tailwind support on this kind of team. So that's pretty cool. And then this is a Scarf Urshifu. No Rain Dance here, but that's okay. Still, wanting to go for, outspeed the Mirror potentially against the Mystic Water set. This is Rillaboom, of course, with the Assault Vest here. So Fake Out, Grassy Glide, Woodhammer, Highest Horsepower. So you get a priority move here, and you also get a priority move here. There's no Chien-Pao. You almost can say, like, you can put a Chien-Pao here in the Hydreigon slot, but, like, having this Dragon type over here is relatively nice. Now, the question is, do you want, or can you fit in Snarl here? I don't think you want that on a Life Orb set. I think that's much better on a bulkier Assault Vest set. I think Life Orb would protect here with, Draco, Dark Pulse, and Flash Cannon is correct. This is Terra Grass Tornadus. That's very interesting. I think, is that to bypass the Ogerpon, so this way you can, like, taunt the Trick Room Center? That might be it, potentially. Terra Dragon Goldengo is another thing. So, like, you have two dragon types here, in essence. You're able to set this up, with your Rillaboom support, or just, like, plot, when you can just pick up potential KOs with like Urshifu, for example, like that can be really, really good. But again, Intimidate, you get Fake Out Pressure, there's Speed Control here with Bleakwind Storm, and then just potential setup here with Nasty Plot. So you have a lot of good tools here. And then if you just look at the protects, 1, 2, and 3. All right, 3 protects is still pretty good. You have a Choice Scarf set and a Band set and an AV set. That's still like relatively fine. But I do like this team. Okay, so why don't we just like go ahead and build this team real quick, with like our own EV spreads, and let's test it out, because I think this is a correct kind of team to utilize Hydreigon. All right, so we're back into the showdown builder here. And again, we're going to use pretty much the same squad. We're not going to make any adjustments here. The only thing we are going to do is just assign EV spreads. And let's see if we can actually test this out on ladder and see if we can bring Hydreigon to any of our games. But Tornadus, I always like to go a bold set here just to be able to survive Urshifu, Mystic Water, Surging Strikes, and even potentially the Dragonite E-Speed, boosted by Chien-Pao, ideally. Right now, of course, Terraghost would be great here. But again, that's a discussion for another day. Our spread for Tornadus always looks something like this. This is our calc to survive the Mystic Water, Adamant 156. So, basic stuff here. And again, still going for this 142 speed here for speed creeping. Then the Goldengo here. So I always like to make a bulky Goldengo in this sense, right? So 132 hits the benchmark here for, special attack damage. And again, if you don't know what EV bumps here, or what EV bumps are, make sure you comment in the video description asking what are EV bumps, because if you're trying to play competitive Pokemon and you're trying to get better at team building, you need to understand what EV bumps are, right? So I say it in every single video for team building wise, but again, if you are tuning in for the first time, you don't know what they are, ask what are EV bumps and I will reply to your comment and explain them, okay? But this is the second benchmark here. I like to go 192 here for the optimal number for the leftovers recovery, and then from here just add like basic defenses, and then 124 speed tier is a good number here. This is gonna outspeed the genies, which is actually really, really nice, after a plus or minus 1. But ideally, this is still fine. Let's just put 1 more point here in special defense, and that's really all we need. Terra Dragon is very, very good. Arcanine here. So with a band set, I think I just want like Adamant 196. I think this is okay. And then a little bit of HP, just to optimize for Rillaboom Grassy Terrain. And then just put a bunch, just go max speed, honestly. Now, that being said, if you notice here, we are speed tying our own Tornadus, right? So you want to be aware of that. And you don't want to speed tie your own Pokemon, right? So what we're going to do is actually just take 1 point here off the speed, keep it at 141. That's still like pretty good. And just dump the rest. You could put it in like special attack here, or just put a little bit more defense. Up to you, really. Here, we'll just put it in HP. That we don't really need special attack, so let's just put 1 more point in HP. I think that's still okay. All right, and then that's our Hisuian-Arcanine spread. Terra Blast, Terra Fairy is good. Rillaboom here. So Adamant Nature, Adamant 116 still pretty good. With max HP. Now, normally I would go something like this with 192, but I'm going to break my optimization rule here and opt for more bulk just in general. This is going to be good against... Actually, no, it already lives it anyway. I was going to say Dragonite E-Speed with Chien-Pao, but even over here, you live that anyway. But I do like the extra HP bulk over here. So I think this is good. Then, a little bit of speed just to get an even number with the Assault Vest. And then just dump the rest in speed. 115 is actually pretty decent. You'll outspeed like other Heatrans and some other Rillabooms. So, that's always like a little bit of a bonus for you. And then over here, Choice Scarf Ursh. So what I like to do here is go Adamant, but go 212. This is to outspeed the Landorus, right? Because max speed Adamant Landorus with Choice Scarf is 143. So we go 144 and we speed creep it. So we don't have to potentially take that Terra Blast, Terra Flying. Let's go 156 investment here. 44 and 4. This is enough to the Dragonite E-Speed stuff, and then just dump the rest in special defense like this. All right, nothing else you really need to say. Hydreigon, again, we'll also make this relatively standard. Let's go Timid here. At 165, this is also pretty good against like other Urshifus that are like max speed, so we can outspeed them potentially. And then just put a little bit of Life Orb optimization here, not that much at all. And then just dump the rest into special attack here. I just need a Timid set, and this is all I got. So this is pretty much it, right? We just made some quick EVs. So now what I want to do is just, go into the ladder and see if I can, bring Hydreigon into any of our games. But the team itself, the other 5, is going to be relatively solid. We know that. Okay, so this is like a super standard Dusclops Ursaluna team. So we actually have this coming out as a rental. I just wanted to pick something very standard and simplistic for you guys. This way you can get your ladder games and even best of 3 tourney prep up and running. But anyway, we're playing someone else using this kind of team. And this is almost where you kind of like Snarl, just so you can neuter the Blood Moon damage a little bit. But, with Levitate, the Landorus isn't going to do so much. You have Dragon typing to resist the Ogerpon in the grand scheme of things. And again, you can dodge the ground type attack from the Blood Moon. He has to click his normal move, which is still okay in that essence, right? You do have Intimidate for 3 of these Pokemon, with the Iron Hands, the other Landorus, and the Ogerpon. Bad news is you're weak to water. But let's see if we can position the Hydreigon here, because we do well against the Dusclops. It's just, what does he pair the Dusclops with? All right, so he's going to go Dusclops and Ogerpon. So that tells me one thing. He's going to try and go for the Follow Me stuff and set up the Trick Room. Good news is that we do Intimidate it. Bad news is that it's a Fire type and a Rock type in front of a Water type. The other decent news is that we pressured the Dusclops a little bit. The other not so great news is that he just redirects our attacks. So that's not great. Okay, so I want to try and get a potential flinch here. Right, so I'm going to stay in. He's actually friskier. So there's the Follow Me. Dark Pulse goes into the Ogerpon. Does pretty good damage, honestly. I missed the Ogerpon, which is unfortunate, but he clicked Follow Me anyway. He kind of has to, just because he can't let his Dusclops die so easily, right? He does get up Trick Room, but that's okay. So now I can switch into Urshifu, not take the Water type attack so much. He does go for Pain Split, which isn't great. But again, look, that's great damage into Dusclops. That's going to KO next turn. And now if you just look at this, like, I can beat it next turn, right? Of course, he's going to click something like Pain Split. I understand that. But also, Urshifu in front of the Ogerpon isn't so great. But I'm going to switch it out anyway because I know he wants to go for the Grass move. So I'm going to go into Rillaboom here, which is why I switched into Urshifu first. But now what we can also do is, like, force him to click Follow Me, right? Because he can't let the Dusclops die, per se. And I know he wants to keep it alive. So, let's think, just in case he does get greedy. So here's the Rillaboom. So I do get this one somewhat right, just because he was trying to be aggressive. Hornleash doesn't do anything, right? Because he's intimidated and it's a grass move. I go for the Draker. I thought he might switch this out, but I got this wrong. I probably, should have just kept clicking Dark Pulse, but, I went for the Draco. So misplay by me, not correct. But that's okay, because I can always switch this out and do a little bit of a reset. So let's go into Arcanine again. Let's get a second Intimidate on the Ogerpon. There's another Follow Me. And there's the Grassy Glide. So, decent damage, but he does get Will-O-Wisp, so it's not so great. So he didn't go for Pain Split. Alright, which is okay. He has one more turn of Trick Room. So, he Pain Splits my Arcanine. Not great. But we click Woodhammer, we remove the Ogerpon. And the Flare Blitz puts the Dusclops in range next turn, because now Trick Room is over. Alright, so that being said, I believe he does go into the Iron Hands here. So here's what I'm thinking. He probably doesn't care about the Rillaboom at this rate, just because it's burned. I know he wants to go for the Arcanine. So I want to preserve this thing. Let's go into Urshifu. I know he doesn't want to go for that Electric move there. He wants to either click Fighting Move or click Fake Out. And now what that means, we can click Woodhammer, and thankfully we KO'd the Dusclops there. So even though we were burned, because we have a strong Woodhammer attack, and we're in grassy terrain, it was just enough, to just remove the Dusclops, which is good. So now he's down to 2 Mons. We can always Intimidate, cycle the Iron Hands later. But here's the Ursaluna. So I call this normal Terra. So we go for close combat, and either way we're fine because we're faster. So we just bop the Ursaluna on the head with another Woodhammer, and we're kind of chilling from here because now this Iron Hands has to go 1-on-4. He crits the Rillaboom, still okay. Right, but in the grand scheme of things, we're fine. So here we go, close combat again. We're locked into it. There's another high horsepower, so this is definitely in range for the Arcanine to go for Terra Blast, Terra Flare. Now he does click the Drain Punch, but again, not gonna matter in grand scheme of things. So Terra Fairy it is, Terra Blast, and that's all she wrote. So Hydreigon was giving us decent value there, but I just misplayed and clicked Draco Meteor, but. We were pressuring the Dusclops a little bit. So there's that. All right, here's another one. This looks like a Landorus Milotic balance team. So I feel like you want a Roaring Moon on this, but for whatever reason, he didn't decide to go with a Roaring Moon. But that's okay. So I see Rillaboom, I see Iron Hands, I see Landorus. Very standard stuff, in all honesty. Does he bring the Milotic? I think he does. You know, it just really helps him against the Arcanine, because other than that, he has Landorus, but is that really enough, right? Because we can intimidate that own Landorus, and then we also have Hydreigon of our own. I don't think Hydreigon comes here per se. You know, we're not a Snarler, so, you know, not that that matters, but, you know, even the Arcanine, I don't even think we bring those two. I think we just bring, like, Ursh, Rillaboom, Goldengo. I think this is a Goldengo game for sure. So here we go, Tornadus and Urshifu, and he goes with Milotic and the Landorus. So I really wanted to, like, Terra and then just Surging Strikes this, but I held off it and I wanted to save it. So he does do this. So here's my Tailwind. I do go first, of course. This Landorus is gonna live, unfortunately, right? Which again makes me wonder if I should have Terra Warded. But he actually goes for U-turn instead, no Terra Blast, into the Iron Hands, and that's a coil set. So this is a dangerous thing now, because he could just fake out and coil again. So I want to at least, you know, click fake out over here. I'm sorry, click taunt is what I mean. Okay, I'm gonna go into Rillaboom here, and now again we go for the taunt, which is great news. But again, he does click Ice here, which is fine. You know, I was already slower. He does remove my Tornadus, but that's still fine, right? Because now what we can do is go into Goldengo here. He goes into Heatran, but this is a free nasty plot because I know I'm going to be able to remove the Milotic here, right? And I didn't even care if Iron Hand stayed in there. He wasn't killing Goldengo, so it was a free nasty plot. So now I know he wants to go back into Iron Hands, but that's fine. We'll just go into Urshifu again, reset our fake out. He fakes out there. Now, that may look like a bad play, but I understand it. He probably thought I would Terra Dragon there, you know, just so that I wouldn't take the Heatran fire type attack, and that's probably correct. I should have done that, but I didn't, and instead I went aggressive with the Iron Hands, and this is a Life Orb Heatran, which I thankfully live, right? Which I thankfully live. So there's that, but again, too risky. You don't want to play like that. So my opponent was correct. I wasn't correct. But we get to remove the Heatran here with the Urshifu. Urshifu is still good in Regulation E, guys, right? It's still good, all right? And then here's a Make It Rain, of course, just in case. But that's going to be pretty much it. And we already know what's in the back. You know, it's just his Landorus here, which obviously he can't use, or, you know, to break the Urshifu. As well as what we have remaining in the back. So all in all, I think it's a pretty good team, you know, and I don't know if Hydreigon is ideal in this slot, but it does work. All right, so there's a rental. We'll put it in the paste, of course. Now, again, you know, Hydreigon, does it have a niche? It does. You know, again, dragon typing, good against the Ogerpon resistances. Dark typing, you can sit in front of Psyspam. You have the option for Assault Vest Snarl, you know, to neuter their damage. Levitate is a very useful ability, of course, you know, just being able to stop Landorus stuff, you know, or Stomping Tantrum, high horsepower for that matter. I think a lot of Pokemon like Arcanine and or Heatran are going to appreciate that, you know, for sure. All right, and then from there, it's just like, again, Hydreigon fulfills that niche that you wanted to fulfill. It's just a matter of like, okay, can I bring this to different matchups? And you can, just not all of them, right? Just because it's a relatively niche mod, right? But that's gonna do it for here. Let me know what you think of Hydreigon, and if you liked our bulkier Assault Vest variant that we showed you, you know, feel free to ask me for that. I can give that to you. You know, I didn't make any EVs, but I can easily do it. You know, I'll just use some of my old sets. But the other set that I did show you for Hydreigon, you know, you can definitely use that, in all honesty. If you need help coaching, if you need help team building, right, for an upcoming Players Challenge, Premier Challenge, Mid-Season Challenge, and an upcoming local, either way, we've got you covered. If you sign up on the channel with Tier 3, we can plan a Discord call and build the team together from scratch like we did here. And then, you know, get you that team that you need for that upcoming tournament that you have. Or if you just need something from ladder play, you know, we can build you a squad with that. But other than that, you know, we're trying to get as many people some CP as we can. Of course, we've done a great job for it thus far since Regulation D, so we're hoping to keep that going. All right, but anyway, sign up on the channel, you know, in the video description or in the comment section. There's a pinned link for that Tier 3 sub, so make sure you take a look at that. All right, we'll be back with another video in the next one, guys. Peace out and have a good one.